We welcome you to the Quest Diagnostic Center in East Rutherford, New Jersey. The New York Giants going through training camp 2022 as we welcome you to the training camp report presented by Citizens. Bob Popo along with Super Bowl champion Howard Cross. And Howard, an exciting time here for the Giants. They had padded practice yesterday. They're kind of going through their preparation for the season. It's hard to believe a week from tomorrow night, the Giants are going to get on a mode of transportation and head up to Foxborough and play their first preseason game next Thursday night. It comes fast, doesn't it?
It does come fast. You kind of go through the offseason, and everybody's like wondering what's going on. The draft happens. All of a sudden, you're picking up free agents, and they start practicing. It turns around really quick.
Obviously, this is an era of not two-a-days. This is an era where there's a lot more meeting time. There's walkthroughs, a lot of classroom time. So the time that's on the field, especially for younger players, you really have to limit your mistakes, even for the veteran guys, because you don't get a lot of opportunities to get back out there and get more reps. It's one practice, one set of reps.
You know, I refer to it, I tell people this all the time. It's like boxing. If you don't spar, it's hard to fight. And the sparring has been cut down a lot. Now it's more mental, and you got to be really perfect in your mental preparation. But when you get ready to do the physical preparation, you can't miss a step. And it's a big jump for some of these guys because they're used to practicing in college. You're in college, you go full pass twice a day sometimes. Now in the NFL, you might go once a week.
All right, you see Chris Myrick there. You see number 45. He's a guy that the Giants are excited about. Daniel Bellinger,
Yep.
rookie out of San Diego State, fourth-round pick. Listen, this is a position that has undergone a major overhaul, the tight end position with the Giants. There's a lot of questions as to who are going to fill the roles. What are some of the things that you're looking for here early in camp?
Well, the greatest thing about this group of guys is they're all kind of bigger body guys, most of them, and they can block and they can run great routes. So it's going to be very interesting to see which guys can be the guy that's going to move from the position of with that inline tight end with his hand in the dirt to being able to be in the slot a little bit and maybe even being spread outside. I think they got a couple guys that, to kind of maybe Bellinger and a couple other guys are going to try it, but you just got to see it happen. Again, the run game and Saquon is dependent on these guys to be able to kind of control that edge, control that linebacker on the outside, and sometimes that defensive end.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, when you came to the Giants as a young player, the room was stacked. You had Mark Bavaro, you had Zeke Mowat already there, proven champions. This is kind of a group by committee, and I would think that a guy like Bellinger is going to have to make significant strides because he may be a rookie, but they're going to need him to perform. That's why they drafted him.
Yeah, but in this day and age, guys they start off in the 707. So they get these incredible skills of running routes. They're incredible. Running routes, catching the ball, very aware of the surrounding space. Where he's going to be the big jump is, like I said, that inline blocking. If he can get up there and stand in front of a guy and hold him off, you ain't got to crush a guy, but be able to block a little bit and hold the point, that's going to make a big difference in the position a light years from where it was last year.
Jeremiah Hall is a fullback, number 27. So, again, now this is a little bit different drill. So this is coming off of a two tight end set, right?
This is called a flood set, or when you have two tight ends standing side by side. One guy's the inline guy with his left hand on the line of scrimmage. The other guy is the wing guy from the old wing T offense people used to see. And when they're running the ball in this situation, they're trying to take on the two outside guys to create a hole back inside for the back to run to. You're pushing the guys off the line of scrimmage, and you're not really, like I said, dominating them. You're just turning them out, keeping them out of the play, keeping them out of the contact for the running back.
So it's not about pancaking somebody in this situation. It's about moving people to create a lane, right?
Yeah, you see, look at how he's got his feet, how he's got his inside hand up holding them. Even the fullback is getting in line and trying to do this block. And it's a tougher block for some guys because when they slide down like this, they usually pull a big guy over the tight end, the inline guy, and they'll pull the linebacker sometimes from the middle out to him. If you're lucky, you'll get a safety, poor safety, like you see right there.
And Howard, we've seen over the last couple of years, one of the drawbacks for the Giants. Now, this is a new coaching staff. It's a new offense. It's a new everything. But, production from tight ends, forget about pass catching, but the blocking component of it have not been up to speed by what you need. I mean, I know there's been many times where you've been sitting there on the sidelines watching this. It's an unsung hero kind of job, isn't it?
Well, I keep telling guys all the time when kids ask me from college and stuff, what's the best way to stay in the league? I said, do the things nobody else wants to do. Like if you learn to block as a tight end, you may not make the huge contracts, but you'll be around a long time if you can hold that point. And they'll throw you a couple biscuits every once in a while to keep you happy.
Phil Simms did in 1993. He threw you a bunch of biscuits.
Wow, that was a good year. We enjoyed that year a lot.
Obviously, the Giants had a really good team that year. Secondary play, competition at the secondary position. That's something that obviously we're going to be focusing on throughout camp with this football team because, listen, we know some of the frontline guys, but you need more than starters in the NFL to play competitively in the National Football League. And that's, something that's very important in today's day and age.
Well, this is good. Now, check out this drill they're doing. These guys are dropping back to a spot on the field, and the drill is meant for them to catch the ball at the highest point. That's what they have the stick with the long reach and the boxing glove on it. It's trying to convince the guys not just to wait for the ball to come to them. They want them to go up with their hands and reach to the highest point to compete for the ball. So this is, in essence, when you say guys are 50-50 receivers, this is what makes them 50-50 receivers or less. When the DB gets up and catches the ball at the highest point.
Well, there's one of the better defensive players on the Giants. Xavier McKinney getting the interception. Now Julian Love's getting a turn. Oh, I got a little tap to the stomach.
Yeah, both
nice.
guys. That's what you got to do. You got to, game isn't played where they don't touch you. You're not out there. You're going to get bumped. You're going to get hit. There's going to be a hand in your face. Somebody's going to be pulling on you. But they're doing it the safest way possible by having the long branch reaching out and touching them.
Andrew Adams, who started his career with the Giants back in 2016, then went on to win a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Spent some time in camp with the Lions, re-signing with the Giants, bringing some veteran experience.
Now, Julian Love's like the all-purpose DB. He plays safety. He'll play in the slot a little bit. Comes up and make tackles, plays down in coverage. So he does a whole lot of everything.
Here's the guy I love watching, Xavier McKinney. The movement is so economical, and it looks so effortless. And, you look at some of the other guys doing the same drill, and not that they're not elite athletes. They're in an NFL camp. But then you watch a guy like McKinney do it, and it looks like it's so effortless.
It's the best way I can explain it, some guys seem like they're almost born to do and play certain positions. He looks like that. The way he flows to the ball, the way his hips open up when he breaks back to the ball, the way he tracks the ball and is able to get his hands on it all the time. He looks like he was born to play safety in the NFL.
And, obviously the program that he comes from, not to blow smoke, but Alabama Crimson Tide.
I was trying not to say anything.
But but when you think about the mental level that it takes to play for Nick Saban, it's very pro-ready in the fact that the information that you have to absorb in his program prepares you for when you get to the NFL for that kind of workload, not just physically, but mentally.
Yeah, Saban talks to guys constantly about, getting through school, making sure you're doing everything right. It's not just about, quote unquote, being on the field so you can prepare yourself for whatever you're going to do after you leave college. And most of these guys who are getting ready to leave, he says, well, if you're not drafted in the first 2 rounds, wait another year and maybe you'll move up a round. He's preparing them the entire time for being at this next level, making sure that they're ready mentally and physically. And besides that, he coaches the DBs at practice. He's not just in practice coaching defense or offense. He specializes in DBs, and he works with his guys all the time.
All right, what are they working on here? Obviously, it's defensive players against defensive players, but what's the look that the pads are trying to give the edge rusher?
So basically what happens here is that you're trying to get the guy to come off the edge and use what we would call a speed rush. And a lot of times guys will either rip under with their hands or they'll knock their hands down to keep going by them. This is intended for let's say, an offensive tackle, so that is kind of like top heavy, that reaches out with his arms and overextends. And if he overextends in this play, that you knock his hands down, he can't recover and pull back. If a guy that sits back and holds his hands back, you have to rip under him to get by him. So that's what they're doing right now. They're working on the idea when the guy extends his hands and gets his hands out in front of him.
You played a long time in the NFL. You played at a high level, and sometimes I don't think that fans understand hand placement in all these things that we're looking at and how important that is. People see the speed they see the brute force, they see the strength, but a lot of it has to do with technique, and it starts with the feet and the hands being married.
If your feet and hands aren't working together, it's the hardest thing for a player to get over. You can have the greatest speed in the world, but if a guy bumps you with his hand one time, he bumps you all the way outside of the play. If a guy like waits on you and you get too close to him and he grabs you, he stops you in your tracks. You see it a lot with DBs and receivers. The receiver's standing on the outside. He runs a 4.3 or 4.29 40. The DB stuffs him in the chest. He runs a 5 flat 40. And that's what you're working on. You always want to get your hands. You see the guys when they're running down the field, they're running 4.5, 4.4 down the field. And the entire time they're running, they're jousting with their hands, trying to gain position. Every position on the field is working with your hands. And it's important for you to have your hands in the right place when you're playing.
Richie James, one of the new Giants, with a nice catch there from Tyrod Taylor. Just going a little wide receiver versus DB.
Yeah, they're kind of doing a little bit of a jog through almost. They're not really going full speed. They're getting their reps in, getting their steps in. The DB is trying to, mirror the route of the receiver. The receiver is trying to make sure he's getting his right technique in. The quarterback receiver know what's happening. It's up to the DB to react without making a collision.
Let's see what Daniel Jones has got here, and able to hook up with Robert Foster.
You notice this is not DBs playing press, so to speak. They're playing just a little bit off to make sure there's no contact so they can get by. That's the most contact you're going to see.
Nice move there by Alex Bachmann. A little whip route.
And as you know, Bob, after 5 yards, you're not supposed to have your hands on the receiver, as you see the flag hitting the ground right there.
Cordell Flott, one of the new Giants, gets the flag. Tyrod Taylor going to hoist one to that right corner of the end zone and nearly intercepted Aaron Robinson, who is expected to play a big role for the Giants this year in the secondary.
Now, we just watched those guys attack the ball at the highest point, right? They just went through a drill, and after the drill, he lets the ball hit him in the body, gets to the ground.
The thing is, all of this is on tape.
Yep.
When practice is over, after showers, lunch, lift, whatever, they're going to sit down and they can watch all of this over and over again.
Yeah, and it's the thing that we tell guys and when they ask us questions like, what can you give me as advice? My advice always to players is like, hey, look, you're never the same guy twice. Just be better than the guy you were yesterday. Just try to work on it that way. That's the biggest advice you can give somebody. If they think about it, that's like, yeah, that's smart.
Wandell Robinson.
Exciting player. He got good quicks. He's a shifty little guy, but when he's out in the field, he's turning guys around and spinning them in the dirt.
Let's see, Kadarius Toney off that left side. Daniel Jones can't hook up with him. Obviously, the Giants, that's one of the big X factors right here, Kadarius Toney. The Giants need him healthy and available, each and every week this season. The flashes we saw were cool, but more consistency is needed as far as the availability.
Yeah, it's a big thing with players this day and age is to make sure that they can find a way to keep themselves on the field. The best ability of all is availability, and how they're going to get themselves in that position, I don't know. Like I said, this is jousting. This is not the boxing or quote unquote the sparring. You're doing the drills. You're trying to run. You're trying to get yourself to the right position. Everything heightens and everything gets a little faster. They'll get a little faster when they get in pads. They get a little faster when they get into a scrimmage. They get a little faster when they play in a preseason game. They get a lot faster when they get into a game. And if they're lucky enough and fortunate enough to get to the playoffs, it even gets faster then. So it just keeps elevating until you get to the Super Bowl and then you restart it all over again.
Darius Slayton with the catch, and boy, the Giants certainly can use Darius Slayton to be the Darius Slayton of his rookie season when he seemed to catch everything, caught a bunch of touchdown passes, and he's one of those players. He's got a lot of talent. Alex Bachmann makes a nice catch there, runs a good route. Outside of your notable wide receivers, the versatility of that group and roster expectancy is going to be who can contribute on as many teams as possible.
Yeah, I mean, for years that I've watched the league, it's the guys who are on the teams that inevitably are around the entire season. And in the last few years with the Giants, they've had a lot of quote unquote injury problems. They've been beat up. They're trying to figure out, who they're going to get on the field and when. We look up, it's the guy who's been running special teams the entire season. He's out there, he's catching passes, he's playing DB, and in some cases, he's playing middle linebacker. So you don't know when and where they're going to get you and when they're going to call you. If you can make the team on special teams and pay attention in the meeting room at your position, you'll probably get a chance during the season.
All right, so you got the Giants' first-team offense here against first-team defense, and Daniel Jones' pass to Tony gets deflected. Pretty good coverage there.
You got to have, again, if we're in this kind of a practice, and I'm not beating on Daniel, I'm not beating on Tony, I'm not beating on anybody because I know that's part of the game. But if you're in this kind of practice, you got to be fighting to make every play. You can't have any, you can't have any balls bounce. You can't have many things. And some people would say like, well, it was a bad play. You don't get chances to make mistakes. You got to try to be perfect every time out. If you want to get better at it, you got to practice better at it. Like there, right there. Tony rounds the route off at the top. The DB runs flat underneath. That's not a perfect play. That's a perfect ball placement, but it's not a perfect play.
Yeah, Dory Jackson. And that's one of the things, like Daniel Jones threw an interception during yesterday's practice, and, the media and anybody observing it scrutinizes it, only to find out later from head coach Brian Dable that, no, we told him throw it no matter what. Force it in there. Like, I think in this era of social media and everything else, everything is overgraded by people on the outside.
Well, what you notice in practice, and what I notice in practice coming a couple times and watching, is that if there is a play, and let's say the defensive line, which they get paid just like the offensive line, they beat them and they get free, and they're around the quarterback. Daniel's still throwing the ball. The play is still going on. Now the reality of it is he's sacked, and in my mind I'm like, well, shouldn't he be covering up or doing something? And the offense is trying to get their plays in. You can't cover up. You have to continue with the play.
And you're not throwing it away.
Yeah,
you're forcing it in there.
You have to try to get the play in.
Who's been a pleasant surprise here in camp is Gary Brightwell, wearing number 23, the running back in his second year out of Arizona. He's had some pretty good practices. Tyrod Taylor's under a little bit of pressure here, and there's Brightwell with the catch. But, Brightwell was a 6th-round draft pick last year, trying to feel his way around. And so far, he's looked like a nice player here in training camp 2022. Speaking
for all 6th-round picks.
Oh, that's right. You were a 6th round.
Yeah, you just come in and you try to find your place. You find your spot on teams. You make sure you're available when they need you. And you just keep studying, because at any moment in time, it could be your number. Your number could be called. When they call your number, show up.
It's funny. You played so long for the Giants. At one point you had, I think, the most games ever played is for a New York Giant. You went to 2 Super Bowls. You won 1. When you have a career as long as yours is, you forget the fact that Howard Cross was a 6th-round pick. I kind of think, Cross was like a 3rd or a 4th-round pick.
Nah, I just stayed around a long time.
Well, Davis Webb in at quarterback. Everybody's got to get some reps. Obviously, with Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor getting a lot of the reps, when you're in a role like Davis Webb, who was originally entered the league with the Giants, spent last year with Buffalo, so he has a good understanding of Coach Dable's offense and what they want to do.
It's really interesting here also. Think about this, Bob. When we're calling these games in preseason, we're going to be watching these games. These are the guys, even though they're not getting as many reps, these are the guys that are going to be playing late in the games. So these guys, this is so valuable to them this time right now that they have to be paying attention when Daniel's doing it. They got to pay attention when Tyrod's doing it. Then was their time. They got to be, like I said before, got to be perfect.
Well, there's no doubt about it with not having 2-a-days in the NFL anymore, with the limited amount of reps that you get in practice, and with the fact that there's only 3 preseason games, and with the, the strategy and the philosophy that has become part of today's NFL where starters play sparingly. Some teams don't play their starters at all in the preseason. A lot of the guys that you're seeing here, their chance is going to be in these preseason games. Those are going to be their most viable reps, and what they put on tape against other competition, a different team, is going to go a long way in determining whether they stick or not.
Well, they've done a couple things. They're going to have, like I said, preseason games. They're going to have one or two scrimmages maybe amongst themselves, but then they practice against other teams. I think the Giants are scheduled to practice against the Jets. When they're practicing against the Jets, all those reps are going to be valuable reps.
Yeah, and the Giants and Jets will have a joint practice right here at the Quest Diagnostics Training Center on August the 25th. All right, your thoughts from what you've seen in practice today?
Right now, they're just warming up. You know, there's a lot of walkthroughs. You don't see a lot of contact. You see the receivers trying to run the routes, being in perfect position. Quarterbacks dropping back. No matter what, pressure or no pressure, you finish the play. I enjoyed watching the DBs attack the ball at the highest point. Then to see them not use it in the regular drill, you got to continue to do the things you're practicing in the pre-practice. I also like the idea that you saw a lot of balls hitting out to the flats. Not every ball has to go downfield. Being able to check the ball down and having availability on the edges is going to increase production out of guys like Saquon Barkley and stuff out of the backfield. So that's going to be very interesting.
All right, as the summer ticks down, make sure if you have the opportunity, come out to the Quest Diagnostics Training Center, get your tickets for Giants training camp. Really cool atmosphere that the Giants have created for the fans to not only watch practice, but also to enjoy a lot of fun and games, and there's things for kids of all ages. So for Howard Cross and our entire crew, I'm Bob Papa. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Giants Training Camp Report, presented by Citizens.